Hi, this is Elliot Eisenberg of Graphs and Laughs, here to catch you up to date on the latest in residential sales data for the month of December. In December, in Hillsborough County, single-fam home prices rose 2.4%. That was the best single-fam performance across all three counties. On the multifamily side, prices slipped 0.5%. In terms of sales activity, it slid 7.1% on the single-fam side and slightly more, 7.3% for townhomes and condominiums. Sales price as a percentage of list price continued to decline. It's now down to 94.9 on the single-family side and 93.4 for townhomes and condominiums. Pending sales declined 8.3%. That was the best single-family performance across all three counties. Multifamily pending sales activity slid 8.2%. Inventory continued to rise. It's up year over year from 3.2 months to 3.5 months for single family and up from 4.4 months to 5 months on the multifamily side. In Pasco County, single-family home prices fell 1.3%. Multifamily prices fell to a larger 7.2%. Sales activity also declined. On the single-family side, down 3.1%, and on the more volatile multifamily side, 24.9%. Sales price as a percentage of list price continued to decline here like elsewhere. It fell from 95.7% a year ago to 95% for single family, and for townhomes and condominiums, it declined from 95.2% to 92.2%. Pending sales also slipped 16.9% for single family and a little more than twice as much, 39.7% for multifamily. Active inventory in terms of months was pleasantly, surprisingly flat for single family, year over year at 3.4%. This is a big deal. We haven't seen this in a very long time. On the multifamily side, it continued to increase year over year from 3.5 months to 4.7. In Pinellas County, single-family home prices slid 5.8%, but multifamily prices increased 13.8%. That was the best performance across all three counties and both types of properties. Sales activity for single-family units increased 1.4%. That was the best single-family performance across all three counties. And multifamily sales activity increased 20.4%. That was the best performance across all three counties and both types of properties. Single-family sales price to list price continued to weaken. It's now 93.4%, a year ago 94.6%. But on the multifamily side, it increased. This also is big news. It increased from 93.1% a year ago to 93.5%. Pending sales for single family slid 17.7%, but for multifamily, more volatile, it increased 39.9%, a terrific increase. And sales and inventory for single family was flat. Also, a piece of really good news, flat at 3.6% year over year. On the multifamily side, however, it continued to rise from 6.2% to 7.8%. But clearly things are happening in Pinellas County. Turning our attention to the national economy, GDP growth is terrific. GDP growth in Q3 was 4.4%. I think it'll be somewhere around that in Q4. These are really very strong numbers, perhaps an overestimate of what's really happening, but terrifically good news. The bad news is inflation remains too high. It's above the Fed's 2% limit. It's about 2.5, 2.6%, not that much higher, but still higher. And troublingly, unemployment is slowly rising. Over the past 12 months, it's gone up from 4.1 to 4.4. Now we're a full percentage point above the cyclical trough that we experienced in late 2024. So the Fed doesn't know quite what to do. Inflation's too high, unemployment's rising. I think in the short run, the Fed does absolutely nothing and sees what happens. I fully expect inflation to weaken as we go forward. Unemployment is putting downward pressure on wage growth. Wage growth itself is declining. Home prices are declining a little bit nationally, and tariff impacts are beginning to wane, and by mid-year should have gone away year over year and should not be contributing to inflation. Therefore, I expect somewhere end of Q2, early Q3, middle of Q3 for the Fed to cut rates again by a quarter point. Maybe they do it again before the end of the year. This, of course, assumes inflation doesn't get out of hand and my anticipation that it declines continues or it stays roughly where it is. In terms of interest rates, while short-term rates have come down, long-term rates really haven't done much for a number of reasons. And of late, it's because of Japan. Interest rates there have gotten much higher, and as a result, Japanese investors are selling treasuries to buy Japanese government bonds. I see a recession likelihood probably down to 30%, which is an improvement. It's still pretty low. It is clearly not my base case. If we turn to the national housing market, it's still stuck in first gear. While sales activity jumped up in December by a little over 5% month over month, the year over rise was 1.4, hardly something to get excited about. We still see the same problems repeating themselves over and over again. Prices are high, interest rates, while down a little, remain high, and inventory still is generally tight. It's going to take more housing, and hopefully we can get some action from Washington, D.C. on that agenda. There are other agendas that President Trump is pushing. Hopefully they'll have some effect. I don't expect them to be particularly large. Turning our attention to the Florida economy, it continues to do pretty well. Unemployment is pretty low. Labor force growth is not bad. Immigration is not bad either. But of course, the Florida housing market is nothing to write home about. Prices across the state are doing poorly, some places more poorly than others, but very few, if any, are really doing particularly well. The four biggest markets, Orlando, Jacksonville, Tampa, and Miami, are all relatively weak. Tampa is the weakest of all the 20 largest MSAs in the country. So this is a bit of a tough time in terms of sellers. But for buyers, it's a great time. It really is. This is the time to get your buyers ginned up. Tell them that prices are coming down. Houses are more affordable now than they've been in a good long time. And they can always refinance when interest rates hopefully get lower sometime later. Now, this is the last one of these videos I'll be performing and presenting to you guys. It's been a real pleasure and an honor having the opportunity to speak with you, and I much appreciate it, the fact that you brought me into your life. Thank you.